Okay, let's dive right into the glittering prize, the big one at the top of English football.
Mm-hmm.
That image, captain's arms up, lifting that trophy, the fans going wild.
Yeah, it's iconic.
So today, we're going to unpack some, well, surprisingly specific facts about the Premier League trophy itself and those medals, the winner's medals.
Right, and the info we're looking at, it's straight from the league, fresh off Liverpool, wrapping up the title in 24-25.
Exactly. Gives us the real details.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how it peels back the layers. It's not just about the celebration. It gives you the actual measurements, the weight, and crucially, the rules, especially around the medals.
Yeah, the mechanics of victory, you could say. So our mission here is to go beyond just the big moment. We're looking at the kind of nuts and bolts of the silverware.
Yeah.
And seeing what interesting points pop up when you look closely, especially those medal rules, when you match them against the actual player data.
Yeah, it throws up some interesting questions about what that medal really means.
Definitely. It makes you think about that balance, between a strict rule and then the club just deciding.
Precisely.
Okay, let's start with the main event, the trophy itself. And straight off, there's something a lot of people probably don't realize.
Which is?
There isn't just one Premier League trophy.
That's right. Yeah, the league actually has two identical trophies.
Two. Okay, why is that then?
Well, one is the one the champions get to lift, keep for a bit. The other one stays with the Premier League. They use it during the season, maybe for, promotional stuff,
Yeah.
appearances.
Okay, so the champs get it on loan, basically. Is there a time limit?
There is, yeah. The rules actually say the winning club has to give their trophy back to the Premier League
When?
at least 3 weeks before their last league match of the next season.
Gotcha. So the league always has the official one ready for the final day, no matter who might win it.
Exactly. It covers all the bases for that final day drama.
Makes sense. Logistics. Now, let's talk about the actual thing. It looks seriously heavy when they're lifting it.
Oh, it is. It's substantial. Each one stands 3 feet, 5 inches tall. That's about 104 centimeters.
And how wide?
About 2 feet wide, so 61 centimeters.
Okay, and the weight, that's the big one.
Total weight is 4 stone, or 25.4 kilograms.
4 stone.
But here's the detail that really jumped out from the source material. The base. The engraved base alone.
How much?
That weighs 2.5 stone, so 15.9 kilograms. Just the base.
Wow. So more than half the total weight is just in the base. That's incredible.
Right.
It's not just holding it up. It's like carrying the history, all those names.
Yeah, it literally gives weight to the history, doesn't it? All those past champions engraved on there.
And the design itself, it's quite specific, right? Not just any old cup.
No, definitely not. It's based on the 3 lions of English football, like on the national team badge.
Right.
So on the trophy, you've got 2 lions making up the handles, and the third lion, that's the captain. When they lift the trophy up with the gold crown bit at the top, they become the third lion, completing the set.
That's brilliant. I love that. Making the captain part of the actual symbol. Very clever.
It is neat, yeah.
Okay, so that's the trophy. Magnificent.
Yeah.
But for the individuals, the players, the staff, the really personal bit is the medal. Let's shift to those.
Right. So the champions get awarded 40 medals, commemorative medals.
40. What are they like?
They're silver, and they measure 2.25 inches across, which is about 5.7 centimeters.
40 medals. That sounds like a decent number, but when you think about the whole squad, manager, coaches, medical team, kit staff, everyone involved, does 40 actually stretch that far?
Well, that's where the rules get really fascinating and where the analysis comes in.
Right.
The Premier League gives the club 40 medals, and they say the club can hand them out to the manager, players, officials, basically as the club sees fit. But
There's always a but.
there's a really important rule just for the players, a non-negotiable one.
This is the appearances thing.
Exactly. The source is crystal clear. Every single player who has made at least 5 Premier League appearances for the club during that title season must get a medal.
Must. No exception.
No exceptions. No discretion on that point. If you've played 5 times in the league, you get 1.
So it doesn't matter if you played every minute or if you just scraped 5 substitute appearances right at the end.
Yeah.
Hit 5, get a medal.
That's the rule. Purely based on hitting that 5 appearance mark in the Premier League. Doesn't specify minutes or starts, just appearances.
Okay. What about the players who played, say, only 1 or 2 games? Are they just out of luck?
Well, they aren't guaranteed one by that rule, no, but the club can choose to give them one.
From the leftovers.
Essentially, yes. From the medals remaining after they've given them out to all the players who hit the 5-game minimum.
How many are usually left over? We'll get to the Liverpool example in a sec, but generally.
It depends on the squad size and rotation, obviously. But yeah, those remaining medals are for the manager, staff, and maybe those players with fewer appearances.
And the source mentioned something about getting extra medals. More than 40.
It did, but the conditions are incredibly strict. You can only even ask for additional medals with permission from the Premier League board.
And when would they even consider it?
Consent is only given if the club has had more than 39 players make at least 5 Premier League appearances.
More than 39 players hitting 5 games. That's basically your entire registered squad plus some reserves needing to play 5 times.
Exactly. Think about that. You'd need a massive injury crisis, probably, for that many players to reach 5 appearances. So it's a very, very high bar just to request more.
Right. Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's use the data you mentioned from Liverpool's 24-25 win, the list of players and their appearances. This really shows how that 5-appearance rule works out.
Yeah, perfect example. So looking at that list,
Yep.
let's count up who made 5 or more Premier League appearances. You've got Salah, Gravenberch, Van Dijk, Diaz, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gakpo,
Alexander-Arnold, Jones, Robertson, Konate, Nunez, Alisson, Jota.
Endo, Bradley, Elliott, Tsimikas, Kwanzaa, Kelleher, Gomez, and Kiza.
Okay, counting those up, that's 22 players.
22 players who, according to the rules, must receive a medal. Automatically qualified.
Right, so the club gets 40 medals total. 22 are immediately assigned because of that rule.
Which leaves 18 medals. 40 minus 22.
18 medals left for the club to distribute completely as they see fit.
Exactly. And those 18 need to cover the manager, the entire coaching staff, the medical team, kit managers, analysts, all the backroom staff who play a huge role.
And potentially those players who didn't hit the 5 games, who was on that list with fewer.
Jaros and Danz both had 1 appearance, according to the source.
So they could get one of those 18 discretionary medals, but there's no guarantee under the rules.
Correct. It's entirely up to the club's decision for those 2 and for all the staff.
And this is where the analysis and maybe even a bit of debate comes in, isn't it? The source gives us the hard facts, the rule, but it doesn't say how a club makes those choices for the remaining 18.
No, it doesn't.
Who gets prioritized? Does the manager automatically get one? How many coaches? Do long-serving staff get preference? It leaves quite a big chunk down to the club's own values.
And it highlights that contrast. You've got, say, Mo Salah, who the list shows played 38 games, absolutely crucial all season. He gets a medal because he cleared the 5-game threshold.
Right.
And then you might have a player, maybe a younger player, who made exactly 5 appearances, perhaps mostly brief cameos. They also get a medal. The same medal.
Yeah, the physical object itself doesn't differentiate between 38 games and 5 games.
No, it doesn't.
Which kind of makes you question, what's the medal truly rewarding? Is it just hitting that minimum participation bar, 5 appearances and you're in?
Or is its meaning maybe different depending on how you received it? Was it mandatory because you played 5+ games, or was it one of those discretionary ones given by the club?
That's a really interesting point. Those discretionary ones could go to someone who maybe didn't play much but was vital for team spirit, or an academy prospect they want to recognize, or, like you said, vital members of the non-playing staff.
Exactly. So the same silver disc could represent very different things. It could be for consistent contribution on the pitch, or being part of the squad environment, or recognition for vital off-pitch work.
And just to double check on the Liverpool example, with 22 players hitting 5+ games, they were nowhere near needing 39+ to even think about asking for extra medals.
Oh, miles away. Yeah. That rule for extra medals is clearly for really extreme circumstances. 40 seems to be the standard number clubs work with.
Okay. And finally, the source just touches on the practical side. What happens on those really tense final days, when it could be 1 of 2 or even 3 teams winning it right at the end?
Yeah, the logistics must be pretty intense. In that situation, the Premier League has to be ready for any result.
So they prepare multiple presentations.
That's right. Separate presentations with the trophy, the medals, the podium are all set up at the different stadiums where each contender could potentially clinch the title on that last day.
Wow. That's quite an operation, just to make sure that big moment, lifting the trophy, can happen right away, wherever it needs to.
Yeah, it shows the level of planning behind what looks like a spontaneous explosion of joy.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive then. We've got the Premier League trophy, actually 2 identical ones. Seriously heavy, especially the base, designed around the 3 lions, with the captain becoming the 3rd lion when they lift it.
Yeah.
And then the medals, a fixed number 40 of them. silver.
And that key rule, play 5 Premier League games in the season, you must get one.
Leaving the club with, in Liverpool's case, 18 medals to give out based on their own choices to staff, manager, players with fewer appearances.
Which brings us back to that kind of core point we discussed, that mix of a hard and fast rule and then pure club discretion.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. When you see players receiving those medals, knowing the details, what does that medal truly represent? Is its main value just about hitting that 5-game mark, a sort of minimum requirement ticked off? Or is it more about being recognized as part of the successful group, regardless of how many minutes you played?
Or perhaps does the real significance depend on why someone got it? Especially thinking about those 18 discretionary medals. Who does the club choose to honor with those, and what does that tell you about what they value beyond just appearances?
Yeah. When you see that medal around someone's neck, how do you interpret its meaning, knowing how it all works behind the scenes? Something to think about.